Like I've called it this before in here, a Trojan horse, and like this week the new version of Homer's Odyssey has been released in the cinemas nationwide, and it's the tale of Odysseus' long and protracted journey following the end of the Trojan War. And we all know the Trojan War was ended when the cunning Greeks infiltrated the fortifications of Troy by the use of a horse that was filled with Greek warriors. I know it's not, we might be talking about this, but this is a Trojan horse. To say it's an emergency is an absolute Trojan horse. It is going to be used in our energy mix. And I think that's what, there's no other, nothing else we can call it. And people question the strategic thinking of the Trojans and bringing that wooden horse filled with danger into the city. And historians, no doubt, are going to be referencing it like this because it is a Trojan. It's not going to be used for an emergency. And I think that, you know, like we're trying to define. First of all, there's no definition of what an emergency is. And like 7 years ago, we led the way in the international community by committing to phase out oil and gas exploration. And in fairness to Fine Gael, where I live, Tony McLaughlin, he actually was banning the importation of fracked gas. This policy has been and this has been settled into government policy ever since. So this amendment, which would reassert the commitment to reduce and legally phase out the use of natural gas, shouldn't even be controversial at this stage. It should be accepted as a given. We are obliged to comply with our legally binding carbon credits, and all this amendment does is to reiterate that we will ensure compliance with these legally binding carbon budgets. And this bill, the purpose of this bill, and like we've put in a load of amendments into this, to secure, according to the summary, is to secure a supply of the gas in the event of an emergency. Yet, the bill does not include a definition of an emergency. An emergency needs to be defined so that the bill does not allow and encourage the assimilation of gas, which the Oireachtas has authorised for use in an emergency only, into the day-to-day energy mix. So the definition included in this amendment makes it very clear. That's why I wish you would accept the amendment. What constitutes an emergency and what doesn't. And I suppose without the definition of an emergency, there is the risk that we are going to be using this filthy, horrible gas into our energy mix. So I don't know why we can't. If you really think it is an emergency, why don't you accept this amendment? To Amendment 15 as well. And I suppose we put this in as well because the stated intent of the FSRU is for an emergency reserve, then the logical thing to do is to put this into public ownership, that there's no question, there should be no doubt that this is going to go into private providers. There's no room at all for commercial operators here to make profit out of this really, really dangerous gas. And so I don't know why can we not legislate the fact that we think it's essential that if we are going to end up as a reserve, which I don't think it is a reserve, can we make sure that it stays in public ownership? And could you put that, so this, I mean, if you've told us it's going to be only used in emergency situations, but it's not clear in this at all because there's no definition of an emergency. But if there is an insistence that it's going to be there, can we not, this amendment will safeguard the fact that it's only to be used in an emergency and it's going to remain in public ownership, and that it's not going to open the door to have commercial operators coming in here, which there is a real threat that there is. So I wish if you could speak to that, it would be great. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy the argument that it's security. I just think this idea that, like, look at Qatar and look at, like, it was blown up. There was a floating LNG storage that was built. So it's actually more of a risk, I think, having a floating LNG terminal. I think that's actually more of a risk to our security. And even like this is mad, this fact so Paul Griffiths, who's the CEO of Predator Oil and Gas, 12 months ago publicly said he would not live near an LNG terminal. In his own words, he said, accidents can happen, so keeping facilities well out of the reach of habitation is vital. And he went on to say that there's like 1 in 1,000 chance perhaps of an accident happening, but when an accident does happen, he didn't even say if, it's catastrophic. So this idea that it's actually some kind of like, oh, it's a security because of our, it's our energy security. It's actually not. It's the opposite. I actually think it's a real threat to our security. So and why would you have two bills though? Why are we having this and then having to have another bill? It doesn't make any sense. I can't understand it. And this is being, like I said, the Trojan horse being railroaded through. I cannot understand why you'd want to have two bills on the very same thing. Why isn't the operations of it being included in this? Like, why can't we just accept the amendments and that would be it sorted? I don't understand it. Definition of frack gas or hydraulically fractured gas is required to accompany a reiteration of the ban that was introduced on frack gas and which is necessary to protect our environment. And like we banned the fracking of gas in this jurisdiction for the, for the health grounds, environmental grounds, for the good. But if we allow imported frack gas to be used, then we are going to be real hypocrites. So it's fine for us to ban it here ourselves, but then it's fine for us then to import it, which to me is wrong. I don't think it's right. So this amendment defines frack gas, which doesn't appear anywhere in the bill. And this with Amendment 13 would make clear that the importation of frack gas will not be possible under the bill. So we know that LNG, particularly when sourced in the US, is usually derived from fracking, and we can see Pennsylvania, we can see the devastating consequences, but not only environmental consequences, but health consequences as well. So this is why we've included a definition of hydraulically fractured gas as meaning liquefied natural gas or natural gas in any other form that has been produced in whole or in part by means of hydraulic fracturing within the meaning of Section 5A of the Petroleum and Other Minerals Development Act. That Act defines hydraulic fracturing, and after amendment in 2017 banned the practice of fracking in Ireland, but it did not ban, unfortunately didn't ban the importation of frack gas. And like I said earlier, it was a brave move banning fracked gas in Ireland at the time, and like I said about Tony McLaughlin, and in fairness, he did a lot of work up in our area, and your own aim in Scanlon as well, and they did a lot of work in the area. So subsequent government policy introducing a de facto ban on the importation of frack gas was overturned, which is going to be overturned now for developing this LNG facility. So, it is definitely hypocritical for us to say, you know what, it's grand for us to import it. We don't want to have it here ourselves, but it's grand for us to have that other countries can have the damage of fracking, and then we'll import it. So, and Minister, I suppose, you did recognise that, that there was a grassroots movement and groundswell, that documentary, but there's also Gasland, that documentary that was filmed in America, I think it was 2010 that came out, and it just. So I just do not see how we can say, and we know it is going to come from America. Again, this is the Trojan horse. We know that the majority of frack, if it is going to be LNG, it is going to be frack gas, and it is going to come from America. And we know that, and it does have to be vented. It's 80 times, methane, which is the majority in LNG is methane. It's actually 80 times more warming than carbon dioxide. It's 33% more damaging to the atmosphere than coal. Why are we having it at all? And this idea that it's it's fine for us not to have it here, that we don't have, so we know the detrimental effects that it has in communities, and we successfully stopped fracking from happening in our country. So why is it okay for it to say, we can just, like what Senator Higgins said here, that or drill, baby, drill. Why is it okay that we're going to say it's fine for communities in places like Pennsylvania to have their lives destroyed, and communities have been destroyed by it. It's seeking into the water supply, and we know that there's not only health concerns but environmental concerns around areas where people are living. Have you seen that documentary? It's really good, and I suppose it's terrifying. So why would we say it's grand for those communities to, they get along with fracking, and then we'll accept it? So I just think, and more, I think it is the Trojan horse. 900 million to be spent on the development of these is a lot of money to be invested when we could invest. If it's going to be temporary, why not invest it in renewable energies that's not going to be temporary? 900 million is a lot of money. Putting in this amendment, we're actually, Section 28, we want to ensure, we would replace the existing Section 33 with this new section. So we're spelling out, I suppose, the hard-run protections of the Climate Act. And we would say, we think, I suppose, this is the third time now that the government are adopting anti-climate policies. So there's the Critical Infrastructure Bill, Dublin Airport Capacity Bill, and now this one. So I just think that you don't want to be going down as being like the anti-climate government, but there's a risk of that happening if these protections are not put in. And this is why we table these amendments, that these protections are put in to the existing legislation.